on a 3-game skid. Dallas scored single-digit points for the 3rd straight game, the longest streak in franchise history. Dak Prescott's QBR 78 with Zeke, 25 without. The Cowboys dropped to 5-6 this season. Joining the convo, Herm Edwards in the house. Hello, Coach.
Hello, hello.
Will Kane in the house from Big D. How we feeling, Will?
How you think we feel?
How
you think we feel?
How about them Cowboys?
Hold it. Before we start with this segment, what in the hell is that you're wearing, Will Kane? You can't have it. What were you doing? Drinking and being depressed so much because your Dallas Cowboys got whipped and ruined your Thanksgiving that you went out hanging with the fellas and then you just show up on TV looking like a ragamuffin? Is that what we're doing? What is that you're wearing?
You might be closer to the truth than you actually know. But
oh Lord! I'll let it go then. I'll let it go.
I don't know. Two on one,
that's right.
3 on
that's
one.
Right.
We're up to 4
that's
on
right.
one.
That's right.
How's this going to work? Y'all going to get the entire ESPN corporate headquarters to come in on the next set and take me on? I'm like the Spartans. I'm like the Spartans taking on the Persian army here. I'm the 300 against the thousands. Don't worry, I got it handled.
Will, I feel your pain. All I'm gonna tell you is this: as I sat here yesterday and watched you guys debate, and you guys did a fabulous job. And you told everybody in America, everybody wants to watch the Dallas Cowboys. They are must-watch TV.
Yeah.
Not so much must-watch TV anymore. Be careful.
This we know.
It was TV, Coach. It was just a tragedy.
I would say it was a bulletproof vest. But guess what? Guess what? Nobody needs to shoot at you. The Dallas Cowboys already did it for you.
I think Coach is right. Start on the subject?
I think Coach is right. I think Coach is right about must-see TV. It's not anymore. In fact, my daughters wanted to watch with me. I couldn't let them watch that carnage. I didn't think it was appropriate for that age group.
Yeah.
But you let them watch. The Giants later that night, Max. That's like going from
Oh, certainly not. That's why they put it on after their bedtime.
All right, I want to start, Molly. Can I start?
Yeah. So how worried should Jason Garrett be about his job? Seriously.
Terrified. I mean, if we live in the real world, if we live in a rational world, terrified. Offense is bad. Defense is bad. Team has regressed. Team is playing below expectations. And here's the worst part. Individual players regressing across the board. Let's get to Dak in just a second. But players like Anthony Brown, regressing, cornerback that last year looked like a very promising rookie. Byron Jones, it's supposed to be the all-world athlete, playmaking safety at the back of the defense, not showing his potential. And then, of course, there's Dak. If there's one thing the Dallas Cowboys need to be doing for their franchise, for their future, forget that game, forget the season. It's developing Dak Prescott. And the last 3 games have been a massive regression. Who is that on? Who is it on? It's on the coaches. Now, Coach, I'll be happy to hear you out and tell me why this doesn't fall back on the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, at the very least, the offensive coordinator, Scott Linehan, and the defensive coordinator, Rod Marinelli. But if it's both coordinators, it's got to be the head coach you come back to. I mean, I like Jason Garrett. I don't want to be saying this, but you talk about my Thanksgiving yesterday. One thing that was accomplished is crystal clarity on what needs to happen in Dallas.
Well, I will say this, being a former player and a coach, I will speak on both behalves. As a coach, you know that there's one thing that's always rings true to you. You do not give players talent. God gives them their talent. Now, once you arrive to the conclusion of what their talent is, then how do you formulate putting them in the best position to win? And what are you willing to do to adjust when trouble seems to be brewing? And when you look at this football team right now, they have trouble on both sides of the football. And it starts, obviously, with the runner. Because when the runner is no longer a part of this organization or a part of this backfield, it affects both sides of the football according to how they would like to play. They had a plan. We're going to play this way. We're going to control the clock. We're going to be in a lot of 2nd and 5, 2nd and 3s, so we can determine and dictate the terms on 3rd down. It protects our defense. When we have a lead in the 4th quarter, we can run the football. Our defense doesn't have to be on the field. Well, the runner is no longer there. You still run the ball, but the running attack is a lot different. Now, what are you willing to do now to change? And if you're not willing to change, you're going to see the same result over and over again. We've seen it for the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
That's the problem. You got to adjust. You have to adjust. You have to do something with these players right now to give them hope that we still look. Washington won yesterday, and they still think they have hope to make the playoffs. Dallas has lost 3 in a row. They have basically the same record. They still have hope to make the playoffs, but you as a coach have to convince these players with your game plan, this is what we're about to do.
Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
Yeah, Stephen A.
No,
Go.
Dak is going to look. Dak is going to be fine. Dak is going to be fine in the long run. Jason Garrett is not in the kind of trouble people think he's in, because as I mentioned earlier in the show, Jerry Jones likes sycophants. It's not even a knock against Garrett. He just doesn't have the Bill Parcells personality, right? He's not Jimmy Johnson. Those guys are not going to last in Dallas because it has to be the Jerry Jones show. Only the kind of coach that will allow that will stick in Dallas, and that's not the kind of coach you're going to want most often. In terms, and so, like, is he on the hot seat? Well, he should be, but ultimately, I don't think he is. Now, you look at Dak Prescott. Will, you said he looks like he's regressing. There's one Aaron Rodgers. You know, there are guys like Tom Brady and Drew Brees who can overcome a bad team or a bad offensive line. Aaron Rodgers is amazing. Like, that's the real reason they didn't win a playoff game last year. Dak played very well. Rodgers is that much better than everyone. But Dak is not one of those guys who can take a bad team and make them a great team. That doesn't mean he's not a great quarterback. And who he reminded me a lot yesterday of course he can run, is Eli Manning. Eli Manning gets killed, but this is when he doesn't have an offensive line and a running back. But this is what the rest of the world deals with, Dak fans. When your offensive line is compromised, Zach Martin goes out, you just got Tyron Smith back, 2 guys left in the offseason, 1 to retirement, 1 signed elsewhere. So your offensive line is constantly shifting and changing and not as good as it was, and your running back is missing. Well, that's what it's like to not have protection and not have a running game to the extent that you had it. Suddenly, you find yourself down in games. Suddenly, your interceptions go up, as Dak's were very low last year, because to Dak's credit, he's looking around going, I don't care about my stats. I'm trying to win this game. We're hopelessly lost if I don't make something happen. So he throws another interception. He doesn't care. He's going to look as though he's regressed. He's not going to look good. He's going to look careless with the football as long as his line is in tatters and Ezekiel Elliott's not there. And by the way, no defense. They don't have a defense right now. The defense quit. That's what a quarterback, as good as Dak is, looks like when he has this situation. Same thing with Eli and others that people get on. They can't elevate the team past those situations, but if they're in a good situation, they can help you win.
The question was, how worried should Jason Garrett be about his job? And Will, it just made my morning, because he said very worried, terrified, blah, blah, blah. If we're dealing in the real world, here's the problem. Jerry world is what we're dealing with, which is never the real world. And that's why I started laughing when you said that. Jason Garrett has absolutely, positively nothing to worry about, because Jerry Jones is interested in Jerry Jones. He's interested in his comfort zone. Listen, man, we don't even know if Jason Garrett delivered turkey and cooked for them yesterday morning before the damn game. Jerry Jones might not need to go Christmas shopping. Jason Garrett might do it for him. We don't know what else the damn coach has to do, because he should have never had the job to begin with. If you recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Herm Edwards, didn't Jason Garrett, wasn't he the offensive coordinator when Wade Phillips was there? I believe that is correct. Wasn't he considered the golden boy at that particular moment in time with absolutely no resume to show for it? I believe that was correct. Wasn't he the one offensive coordinator in the National Football League being paid as much as the coach? The coach was getting paid the same as the coach, with everybody talking about him. And the only thing he had on his resume to support and validate and justify such a stature was that he was loved by Jerry Jones.
Well, let me tell you.
This is not the real, hold it. This is not the real world. This is Jerry world. And in Jerry world, as long as he's comfortable, you don't have anything to worry about. If anybody proved that, it was Tony Romo, because when you can't win playoff games, but you're still treated like you deserve to be in a ring of honor like a Super Bowl champion, excuse me, it ain't far from the tree to treat Jason Garrett in the same way. Jason Garrett has nothing to worry about. He has no reason to be terrified because he's not living in the real world. He's living in Jerry world, which is exactly where he wants to be.
Let me tell you what's happening in the real world and in Jerry world. So, I don't know. Jerry, you might pay attention here because I've tried to translate for Jerryisms across the last couple months. Now let me translate the real world to Jerry world. Here's what's happened, right? 20-point loss, 22-point loss, 28-point loss. That's your last 3 weeks, okay? That's what's happening. At the end of those losses, you know what needs to happen? Jobs need to be lost because this is way below expectations. Coach, you talk about the runner being out. I got to get some of these things off my chest. You know, other teams lose while they lose their best player. I mean, the New England Patriots lose Rob Gronkowski, they win. I mean, the New England Patriots lose Tom Brady, and they win. The Minnesota Vikings are on their third quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers lose Le'Veon Bell last year. What do? Win. The whole thing doesn't come crumbling down when you lose one player, especially when his backup is averaging 5 yards a carry. Max, I know you're not a Dak hater, but the whole world that hates Dak and gets to call him a game manager and ignore the last 12 months of evidence now has evidence because the coaching staff has done nothing to help him. Now, a lot of it's on Dak, too. But let me just explain this really carefully, okay? I want to judge Jason Garrett by his own standards. Here's what he said. We employ, number one, the right kind of guy. Okay, Zeke's on suspension, Tank's been suspended, David Irving's been suspended. They've had, I don't know how many guys suspended. So right kind of guy, that's not going well. Develop a system where the next man can step up and you're reliant on having a system everybody can execute. How's that going for you while Zeke's down? We have a culture of winning, right, Jason? How's that going for you? Yesterday, Keenan Allen had a 46-yard touchdown where 5 guys chose not to tackle him. The one time somebody did tackle, it was Jeff Heath knocked down Travis Benjamin on a reverse, and nobody but Jalen Smith celebrated the play. Babe Laufenberg talked about it. Nobody. By every standard. System, right kind of guy, culture, it's failing. It's failing by anyone's standard.
Can I just add this one sentence to that soliloquy?
What?
The Dallas Cowboys have 7, 9, and 6 points in the last 3 games. You left that little nugget out. 22 points combined in the last 3 games. And by the way, why do I bring that up? Coach, once again, what was Jason Garrett before he became the head coach?
Offensive coordinator.
An offensive coordinator. And this is what you answer with just because Ezekiel Elliott went down when your backup is averaging 5.8 yards a carry. Let me tell you something right now. He had nothing to worry about because he lives in Jerry world.
What you guys are referring to, I mentioned the Barnwell article that's up on ESPN.com about the Vikings right now in Case Keenum. It applies to this. Yes, the coaching staff is part of the problem, at least the head coach. You can't deny that, of course. And he has more job security. I totally agree with Stephen A. because he, Stephen A., you call him a puppet for Jerry Jones. I think that's accurate that he has job security because of that sense. But it's part of infrastructure. The Cowboys lack the proper infrastructure. The offensive line is in tatters. They don't have a defense. The coaching staff's not right. So Ezekiel Elliott can mask a lot of that stuff. But you take him away and they fall apart. Will, that's why you can't compare him to the Vikings or the Patriots. Certainly not. Those teams have the proper infrastructure in place. They can lose their quarterback. They can lose their tight end and still win. The Cowboys cannot.
You can't be system needy. It's player needy. You have to build your system around the players you have. And when you can't do that and when you can't adjust, things like this happen.
And Coach, I trust. 22 teams have more playoff wins than the Cowboys since they won their last Super Bowl. Coach, appreciate you.
Hey, Will Kane, enjoy your weekend, bro. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Thanksgiving weekend.
Hey, Stephen A. I'm not going anywhere. I'll see you in a few minutes on the other side of this commercial.
With that outfit on, you should be ashamed.
Hang in there, Will.
Stephen A., I know what to get you for Christmas now.
Better days coming.
A fleece vest.
The New Year's right around the corner. Hang in there,
partner. I won't
partner.
wear it on first take.
Stephen A., I'm so getting for you. It'll be great. I'll get you red. Will, you're the best. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Still to come, Chip Kelly's likely heading back to school next year. Tim Tebow will tell us if he wants to see his coach in coaching the Florida Gators. Did the NFL owners need to do